Hello everybody and welcome to Insider's Guide. Today we're continuing our discussion of the infamous Mammoth Mountain. Mammoth is huge, so this guide will be split into 4 parts. For this part, I will cover the Canyon Lodge and mill areas of the resort. If you haven't already, go check out part A as it'll provide information crucial to understanding what I say in this part. So with that, let's begin an Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Mammoth. We'll begin here at the Canyon Lodge. Canyon Lodge is the most convenient lodge to get to by far. It is served from the village by the village gondola, which says it holds 15 passengers, but I have never seen it filled with more than 10. The village is on the edge of Mammoth Lakes, and there are ample paid parking lots within walking distance of the gondola. There is also a free shuttle bus that runs through downtown Mammoth Lakes to Eagle and then to the village. Canyon Lodge is home to 4 out-of-base lifts: Chair 8, Canyon Express or Chair 16, Schoolyard Express or Chair 17, and Chair 7. Chair 8 is good for convenient access to the Eagle area and Chair 22. We discussed the Chair 8 terrain and the Eagle area in Part A. Chair 8 is most serviceable when 16 has big lines. The Canyon Express is the main out-of-base lift for Canyon Lodge and provides essential egress to the west side of the mountain. It was recently upgraded to a 6-pack but still sees considerable lines throughout much of the day. You're often best to avoid ending up at Canyon Lodge in the middle of a peak day if you're on your way to another mountain area. If you're coming from the west and want to end up in the Eagle area, you can avoid the Canyon Lodge area entirely by staying on Follow Me the whole way over. However, Follow Me is quite flat, so if you want to avoid that, you can take anything from downhill all the way over to Holy Gully to get to Chair 22, from which you can access the blue groomers we discussed in the last part. As a whole, I recommend trying to use 22 instead of 16 to lap all this upper stuff. Heading back in the other direction from the Eagle area, the best way to avoid the crowds at the canyon base would be to take Cloud 9 Express up and ski Solitude to High 5 Express. Accessible from all Eagle side lifts, Chair 8 and the Canyon, Roller Coaster, and Gold Rush Expresses, Chair 22 is Mammoth's hidden gem. This lift is an expert's paradise, and I've never waited in a line longer than a minute here once the lift opens. It is hidden in the trees, so you'll have to look for it, but there is signage. Chair 22 is the perfect chair for when the upper mountain is closed due to wind, which is a quite common occurrence. Chair 22 is relatively long and slow, but it's so worth it because of all the highly enjoyable terrain in this pod. All of the double blacks here are also directly lappable by this chair, which makes for fast, efficient laps. The hardest of the double blacks on Lincoln Mountain are the avalanche chutes, comprising Avi 1, Avi 2, and Avi 3, as well as some unnamed runs like Sneaker Left and Sneaker Right. The easiest of these 3 is Avi 3, and the hardest is Avi 1. However, the difficulty of accessing and dropping into each one increases the opposite way. To get to Avi 3, you have to take off your board or skis and walk up this slippery, rocky hill and down the other side until there's enough snow to clip back in. All of the avalanche chutes are very steep, narrow, and rock-defined with saplings sticking out everywhere. All double blacks at Mammoth, with the exception of one, which I'll get to later, should only be attempted with extreme caution and forethought. Next, we have Shaft, the hardest of the 3 runs designated as the face runs by On Mountain signage. Yes, you'll have to know which one you're doing because they aren't distinguished by individual signs. Mammoth has very poor double black signage. Shaft is a relatively long, narrow, tree-defined mogul run with a rock chute halfway down. It is a little steeper and a little narrower than Grizzly and Viva, which are similar but lack the rock chute. There are also several unnamed lines, such as the chute directly to the skiers left of Chair 22 called Tuttles, and the cliff in between Tuttles and Shaft. Chair 22 is also a much better alternative to get to the runs by Chair 25. You can easily access Back for More, Haven't the Foggiest, Quicksilver, and, if you so choose, Sunshine Glades. We discussed all of those in Part A. Coming from the Eagle side, Chair 22 is also a much better way to get to the Mill or High 5 Express than taking Canyon Express on busy weekends. Just take relief around Gold Rush Express and down Solitude. Off of Follow Me, you can get to Lower Grizzly, Viva, and Shaft, some more mogul blacks. You won't find any concentrated amount of good mogul blacks anywhere else on the mountain, so if moguls are your thing, you might want to consider going to another resort. Cloverleaf is the run-out of all of these runs combined, and as such, it is absolute chaos. Make sure you've got your wits about you before you get onto Cloverleaf. However, it's pretty short, so the madness doesn't last for very long. Next, we have Schoolyard, not to be confused with Schoolmarm at Keystone. Gold star if y'all understand that one. Schoolyard shares a few similar traits with Schoolmarm that extend beyond the name. Just like Keystone, Schoolyard is a crowded, popular green area where every beginner on the mountain somehow ends up. However, the similarities pretty much end there. The lift, Schoolyard Express, is actually an enjoyable beginner lift. It's a detachable, which is somewhat rare for a beginner lift, so it's quite nice. Schoolyard has two main ways to get down, Roundabout and Spring Canyon. I suggest always taking Spring Canyon because Roundabout gets extremely congested with beginner traffic. Off of Spring Canyon, there are numerous easy tree lines that are great for beginners just learning about basic off-piste. Huck's Drop, also known as Alligator Pit, is the most well-known, but there are plenty of other unnamed lines to hit. The main problem in this pod occurs when Spring Canyon and Roundabout converge onto the wide-open Schoolyard run. This creates more of a human dodgeball scenario than a bunny slope, and I highly recommend going right at this fork where you can re-enter the Schoolyard line or the Canyon line. Round Robin is nice because it gets very little traffic and is in the middle of the woods, but it's pretty flat in some areas. This green Gingerbread is just a road. It's actually uphill in several spots and is so mellow that it's impossible to get enough speed to make the uphill sections, especially for beginners. Lastly, we have the painfully slow Chair 7. Chair 7 serves mostly as a bunny slope lift. Schoolyard can get pretty backed up, so if you don't want to wait in line but still want to hit these greens, take Chair 7. Just beware that the time you save by skipping the line will be made back up by a 6.5 minute ride time for a surprisingly short length of travel. To the left off Chair 7 is Hansel, a nice average green run. This is a solid run to lap for beginners and typically isn't too bad in terms of crowds. Way Home is just a road that takes you to the main area of the canyon base. It's pretty flat too, but it's not very long, luckily. The best thing about Chair 7 is Wonderland Playground. This is a beginner terrain park that actually has some really creative features such as domes, boxes, rails, and, in previous years, an 8-foot halfpipe. The quality and quantity of features varies from year to year, but the park is designed with progression in mind and starts out with smaller tabletop jumps about 4 feet tall and usually has a bigger 5 to 6 foot jump with a larger gap thrown in somewhere later. As somebody who mostly sticks to steeper black and double black terrain but isn't a great park skier, I always come here when I decide to hit some park. Off the top of 7, there's also a ski back trail that leads to the village, but it's very flat in some sections and not worth lapping, which should be obvious. Now, onto the roller coaster area. This area is served by two lifts, the Roller Coaster Express, aka Chair 4, and Chair 20. Chair 20 almost never runs and is only used as a way to get to the mill when roller coaster is busy. I can count the number of times I've ridden Chair 20 on one hand. These three parks, Snake Run, Jibs and More, and Transition Park, are secluded areas that feel very disconnected from the rest of the mountain, in a good way. They are also the least busy of all the terrain parks on the mountain. Their names are self-explanatory. Snake Run is a line with creative side hits and winds through the area going up and down with berms along the sides. Jibs and More has one of the best collections of rails and boxes on the mountain. Some of these features have unique shapes, such as boxes in the shape of a quarter pipe, which makes for an interesting experience. Transition Park mostly has non-traditional jump features. Hip jumps, circular jumps that can be done from all sides, and quarter bowls are common. You can also access Big Bird from here. Big Bird takes a circuitous route to Canyon Lodge and is completely flat. Do not take Big Bird under any circumstances. Roller Coaster is mainly used as a park lift. Right beneath it is a great terrain park called South Park. It has jumps ranging from medium to huge and some crazy rails. In case you haven't yet noticed, Mammoth has a lot of parks. It's one of the things they're best at. The groomed blue-black roller coaster is a favorite among intermediate skiers and is a great place to lay down some carbs in the corduroy and watch crazy people hurl themselves off of house-sized jumps. You can also take these parallel blue-blacks, downhill, sideshow, avalanche, and crosswalk to get to Canyon Lodge or roller coaster. Sideshow and avalanche almost always have moguls, and downhill and crosswalk are inconsistently groomed. That being said, they are pretty enjoyable and mark the boundary to this pod of good mogul runs stretching from Lower Grizzly to Crosswalk. Now, let's move on to the mill. The mill is Mammoth's biggest choke point. We'll discuss it much more in the next part, but needless to say, it gets busy. The Gold Rush Express, Chair 10, mainly serves as egress from west to east and isn't a chair you'd typically want to lap. And Stump Alley is so much of a mess that I'm just gonna save it for next video. Now, if Gold Rush has a long line, go as far to the east as possible from the mill and you'll see Chair 21. I've only seen a line at this lift once, and that's when Gold Rush broke down. Other than that, you'll be able to ski right on to Chair 21. Chair 21 will get you right back to the east side, albeit much lower down, while skipping the Gold Rush line. Before we talk about terrain, let's jump over to High 5 Express, Chair 5. This lift has the most enjoyable single black diamond high alpine bowl terrain. It doesn't typically see long lines, and it has a ride time of only 3.5 minutes. Advanced skiers will want to lap Face of 5, Sanctuary, Sliver, and Triangle, which all start slightly above treeline and hold good snow. Do not let the name trick you. Solitude, a wide blue groomer, is the least solitary run on the mountain. For Angelenos, this run will evoke the atmosphere of those few weeks when the 10 was closed due to arson and everybody was stuck trying to invent new routes and taking surface streets to get to work. The runs that feed into the mill are typical tree-cut groomed runs that are fun to lap if the lines aren't bad. The only exception is Lower Dry Creek, a really fun and long natural half-pipe that winds through a canyon. It starts out with a relatively steep section as you make your way into the ravine, then it narrows down and winds underneath Gold Rush, then there's a short, steep, and narrow section with moguls, and finally it flattens out and gets these rolling humps like a pump track. Every intermediate visitor or above should try Lower Dry Creek. Lost in the Woods is in the lift line of Chair 21, and it's a really nice way to get to the mill because it is a rare, uncrowded Mammoth Blue. The entrance to Wall Street is very inconspicuous, but if you follow the sign and stay to your right off Easy Rider, you'll be there. Wall Street is a winding run that takes you to the other side of Lower Dry Creek. It is the blue alternative to Easy Rider. Easy Rider is the more popular run to take because it is more intuitive to get to. It's on the steeper side for a green, and you can build up some speed. Comeback Trail is an offshoot that's uphill from Easy Rider. The best reason to take Comeback Trail is to check the conditions on runs off of Knee Deep, such as Rogers Ridge and Drop 18. Old Comeback is super short and is really just an alternative line to finishing Comeback Trail. Well, that's about it for the canyon and East Mill side of the resort. Go check out parts A, C, and D now, all about the rest of the mountain. As always, please leave any questions down below. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.